I think your story is so powerful, and by sharing it, you could certainly save someone else's life who may be having a similar experience as you did, Jerry. And Dr. Boylan, I am so excited for you to share your perspective and expertise as well. You're one of our most passionate volunteers as a physician and as an advocate. So thank you all for joining us today.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to start off first with Jerry and Laura Lee. And so first, I'd love for you to frame up a little bit about you. Tell us about you both.
Me and Laura Lee have been married for 39 years. We have 3 kids, and we have 6 grandkids. We like the outdoors. We have a cabin on Lake of the Woods. We like to spend a lot of time up there fishing and swimming and just enjoying the northern part of Minnesota and that. So.
You know, Jerry, you left out your bike riding. He does love to get on his bike and hit the trails. So that's another big part of his activity.
When all of this happened, Jerry, you were on a pretty long bike ride, but you had just started.
I got on my bike and I started riding, and probably about a mile into it, I got this discomfort in my chest, and so then I stopped. I took some water in and sort of rested, and went away and that. So I thought, well, I'll try to keep riding. And I thought maybe indigestion. So I just kept riding, and I did ride my bike quite a distance, about 16 miles, and came home and rested for a while, and then went out and cut the grass. And I did mention it to Laura Lee about it. I had this, and I went on the next couple days, and then I went and took a walk, and it came back again. And then she brought up that she saw that there's this campaign that St. Luke's and the Heart Association have on board, that it's don't die from doubt. And so what they're doing is they wanted to make it aware to not take things lightly, and to get them checked out, even in this time of the pandemic and that. So, life got busy, and then it happened again. And then that's when she was ready to take me in. And then we did call the doctor, and then the doctor said, yeah, this doesn't sound right. They did the EKG, and then they did echocardio, and then the angiogram, which then showed that I had blockages.
Yeah. Laura Lee, I want to ask you a follow-up question as well. You're an RN. You're in the medical field, and so you were listening to Jerry talk about his symptoms. When did you know that he needed to go to the hospital?
Well, I think I knew before he did, but I was kind of in that same boat where you don't want to acknowledge that there's a problem. This is my husband. I love him. I don't want to see him have to go through something like this. But on the following Saturday, it just really hit home to me. I had my shoes on. I wanted to take him to the emergency room. I said, Jerry, we have this campaign, Don't Die of Doubt. I had just seen it on Facebook. And I said, you have to do something about this. And if you don't want to go in, I said, at the very least, you have to call.
Well, Jerry, you know this, but you married a pretty smart woman there, clearly. And so another pretty smart woman there, a really smart woman, is Dr. Boylan. And so can you talk a little bit about the symptoms that people shouldn't ignore?
So the symptoms that you had are not atypical. So you're young. You're basically a pretty healthy guy, and you're physically active. You're out going and doing things. And it's very easy to disregard a symptom because really everything else looks fine and feels good. When the COVID-19 pandemic really became a very strong, obvious force in our country, many people didn't come to the hospital at all, kind of as you were probably thinking. We went about a month where we didn't have anybody coming in through the ER with an acute heart attack. And that's just not right. So when people did show up, they showed up in really very, very serious conditions. I think that this experience with COVID gives us a reminder of what it was like in this country before the American Heart Association initiatives were in full swing. So during that window when COVID was very dominant and prominent in everyone's mind and people didn't come in, patients didn't come in, this is what it used to be like decades ago. where patients weren't identified as having heart problems, and when they did show up, they were in disastrous situations. So I think this reminds us of all the benefits that we don't really think about daily, but the benefits of the infrastructure that we have in this country from the American Heart Association, having all these processes in place. I think I support the American Heart Association because this is what it does. It gets you, Jerry, in here during a time of pandemic when you might have stayed home and just kind of pushed it off.
Right.
And Laura Lee, it gave you the knowledge to support that decision.
Oftentimes we aren't able to see the patient, the physician, and then the catalyst of the American Heart Association kind of all coming all on one screen, together. Jerry, we are so blessed that you made that right decision. And what do you want people to know from your experience?
Well, I think, just to get out there and just say that, be aware of your body, don't put things off. If it maybe doesn't seem right, it's not right, get it checked out.
And Dr. Borland, talk a little bit about with us about what you want people to know about how to lower their risk for a heart attack.
We really need to think actively about our health. So I always say, we know our passcodes to the ATM and all those things, but really the things that will save our lives are knowing our blood pressure numbers and our cholesterol numbers, and never too young to know those, never too old to know, but never too young. And really monitoring things. Do we have diabetes? Are we physically active? You're physically active, very active, Jerry. Are we physically active? Do we have family risk factors? Do we have personal risk factors? Smoking, physical activity, weight, all those things. Because those little things are the things that are going to save our lives, to know what they are and to keep them well under control.
Hey, thank you all so much for sharing your story, for having the courage to share your story. It has certainly touched my heart, and it will touch many hearts as well. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. We are so grateful for that.